Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you today among those amazing women in such an industry. Inshallah, and hopefully next year, I'm going to be able to meet every single one of you physically, and we're going to be able to meet each other more often. So today, what I'm going to do is I'll take you through memory line. Where did Eman started? So if some of you met me before, was able to hear some of my speeches previously, I proudly say that I started my career as a network security engineer. Spent a lot of days and hours in cold server room data centers. It's not as fancy as the one you see over here, but it's similar to that. Did a lot of command line configuration for firewall, switches, routers. And I was lucky that I was part of also a migration project for the entity that I was working with, migrating from one office to a new building. And I took a firewall with me back home, and I was so happy. And I did, and I worked on the configuration overnight, and I think that was during the weekend. And that was my, I think my happiest moment back at the time. I was the only female among my colleagues. We were an amazing team. We worked with each other. We cared about each other. I've traveled with most of them for workshops, training, conferences representing our entity. I'm still in touch with them, consider them as brothers as well. And I think it was the teamwork that made everything possible back at that day. During that couple, 4 or 5 years, I did everything. So part of my essential role, I had a secondary job. So I did bits and pieces of security operation, I did compliance, regulation, I did cybersecurity awareness programs. I was doing a lot of these awareness programs and workshops across the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, traveling from Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, other Emirates as well. And I actually wrote also technical press releases as well. I mean, some of you might think, why would us write a press release? It's the responsibility of the comms teams, but never limit yourself to your job description. Was it crazy days? It was crazy. During that 4 year, I also did my master's. Sometime I was in Abu Dhabi for a meeting. Then I used to drive more than 200 kilometers from Abu Dhabi to come back to Dubai home, or sometimes go directly then to my university in Sharjah, where I used to do night classes. It was crazy. It was hard. I literally had no life, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that. I did a combination across the 10 years back at that day between private sector and government sector. Then in 2015, I volunteered for the UAE pavilion at Milan Expo in 2015. I represented the UAE. I worked at the UAE pavilion for, I think, 3 to 4 weeks. It was the end of the Expo event back at that time in Milan. It was an amazing experience for me. Why? I did not know anyone from the group that I worked with. So they did an orientation 3 or 4 days before us traveling. I met whoever was with me the first time in the orientation, then at the airport, and I shared an apartment with 4 girls that I've never met before, and I shared the room with someone as well. And that was an experience for me because it took me out of my comfort zone. I've learned a little bit of Italian, the soft skills that I gained, the networking, communicating with people. It was about marketing, about my country. It was about how do you communicate with different age group, different backgrounds. I was from Dubai. There were people from a city in UAE, which is in the border of UAE and Abu Dhabi, and I've never met someone from that city. There were people from Al Ain, people from Sharjah, people from Khorfakan. So we were actually working together. There were people who were at my age group, people who were younger, people who were older. So we worked in a harmony together. Then after that, when I came back, I remember in 2015 from Expo Milan. The next day I had to drive to Abu Dhabi to attend an RSA conference that was being held at that time. And I got a call on the way back to the hotel asking me, do I want to join Expo Dubai 2020? And that was, by the way, it was a coincidence. It wasn't something that I was part of my Milan experience. It was completely a coincidence opportunity. And in 2016, I moved to Expo Dubai 2020. And this is the view of the site when I joined in 2016. So it was a desert. We've built everything from scratch. It was a green field. And this is the view that I had on a daily basis when I joined the organization. This is 2018. 2018, a lot of site visits, construction going on. When we were looking at the technologies that we're going to implement for Expo, we weren't looking at what's available 2017, 2018, 19. We were looking at what would be available in 2020 because we didn't want to invest in something that's going to be obsolete by the time we open Expo. And because Expo is everything, it's all about showcasing the latest technology, showcasing the human interaction with the technology. Did we face challenges? Yes, we faced a lot of challenges. From people to processes to technologies. Technologies because we were investing in things that were not tested before. How do we guarantee the security of those devices? How the integration would work with everything, with all the platforms that we're having? Do we have enough time to do assessment? Do we have enough time to tighten our controls? I mean, imagine you're building a site, you're implementing new technologies, and at the same time, you're coming up with controls that you cannot benchmark to other organizations because this was a unique project. Every World Expo is different than other. Every mega event is different. So we couldn't benchmark to Expo Milan in terms of the infrastructure because we were building a smart city. So we had to come up with our own cybersecurity blueprint. Even in terms of resources, we wanted to handpick every single resource that we bring and the value that he would or that person would add to the organization. Convincing someone that is working in an organization in his comfort environment to join a project that has a start and an end, to make that person believe in Expo's dream, Expo's objective. Imagine this site. We had over, the site is 4.38 square kilometer. We had 130 buildings that were connected through 200,000 sensors through smart building management system. We had more than 9,000 wireless access points across the site. We had over 13,000 cameras. We had 6 hybrid data centers interconnected with the site and the campus network. We had over 4,000 network devices. All of them were interconnected and all of them were monitored through our security operation. So we were enhancing, we were building our SOC, and we were building the site, and we were implementing also all of these technologies from application to network to all of it together. So you can imagine the challenge we were facing at that time. And this was the same photo that I've showed you in 2016. This was November 2018. So 2018, we have one more year. Progress was going on. We were doing an amazing job. Looking at this picture, this is some of my team members and colleagues with Her Excellency Reem Al Hashimi, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs for International Trade and also the CEO of Expo. Looking at the picture, you would think this is either the opening ceremony or the closing ceremony. You guys took this group photo celebrating the success. This photo was on 29th of January 2020. This is the day where we welcomed His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed to showcase the readiness of the site and to showcase the first ever projection of our Wasl, because we were less than 6 months to the event. And this was one of the greatest achievements. And this is where we had the blessing of both of their highnesses for this. If someone at that day told me, Eman, within less than 2 months, we're going to be hit by a pandemic and the Expo would be postponed for another year, I would say, sorry, you're crazy. No way that would happen. But this is what happened. The picture on the right is the first day of working from home. And this is me capturing documenting the weeks of quarantine. It was a rainy day over here. We all thought it's gonna be a couple of weeks. We're gonna go back to work. We're gonna go back to life. Everything would be normal, but that was not reality. And I remember when we announced the first case, and this is where we started working from home. I think it was end of March, where you see the picture on the right. It was the first case, then it was the first 100 case. We were facing unknown. No one knew what was happening. I mean, we cared for our colleagues. We were afraid of what if. We're hearing people are dying, people are in intensive care, how we're going to handle that situation. And it was also the whole idea of whether we're going to be shifting the Expo or not. I remember Her Excellency started writing with the start of us, of the COVID and us working from home. She used to send us email every Thursday. So week 1, week 2, week 3, she used to say letter 1, letter 2, letter 3, giving us update to what's happening. And this is what I did also with the team. Daily meetings, being transparent of what's happening on the site. We've opened testing center on the site. We've asked the staff if they can volunteer for us, because we had over 30,000 contractors working. We had our staff working. So we had to take care of that, because testing facility was something new. We've invested in testing kits. We've partnered with healthcare centers to do testing for us. But that was not easy. That was very difficult for us. And then I think it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks into the pandemic where Her Excellency told us that there's a possibility that we would postpone. If you ask me, was I happy for that? No, I was praying every day that I don't want to postpone, because we were ready. I mean, we've worked 5 years. We were waiting for that day. We don't want to postpone. But then it had to happen, because the reality and the situation was completely different. And the pandemic that we were facing, it wasn't something that it's going to stop. So we had to postpone. What did postponement of Expo meant? It meant that we had to redesign everything. We had a 1 year gap. 1 year gap meant impact in operation, impact on budgeting, how we're going to cover that one year gap. So we had to go sit down into negotiation tables with our partners. And the pandemic everyone was into it. So it's not only us. So even our partner, the vendors, were impacted as well. So going back to negotiation tables, discussing all of these terms, how to cover that 1 year gap, how to run lean operation, how we're going to process everything. We need to stop some of the development, how we're going to continue the development, what we're going to do about it. So that meant redesigning everything, defining a new strategy with the 1 year gap. And that meant also a lot of changes on the site, because a lot of things that we've designed and implemented was dependent on the human interaction. Now that changed. You cannot touch screens, you cannot touch things. So we had to take all of that into consideration, even in terms of manpower and resourcing. We've never thought that we might lose an entire shift, for example, how we're going to cover people who are working in the technology operation in the NOC, in the SOC. If we lose an entire shift because someone got COVID, rest of them would be close contact. So how are we going to manage that? So there are a lot of things that we had to replan, we had to define, and it was something new because we've never hit with such pandemic before. So this is also what I think personally hit me as well. We had to let go of some people because a lot of the manpower or the resources we hired were for the operation of the event itself, and with the postponement of the event, we had to let go, and that was something very difficult. We were able to run. This is the last disaster recovery test that we did during the pandemic. This was in August, a couple of months before the opening in 2021. That was the last DR test we did. And of course, we celebrated at the end of it with cakes. There are teams of our partners, vendors, Expo teams, and they worked as one team towards the success of this disaster recovery for us to be ready for the event itself. And this is where we worked over 5 years and during the pandemic for the opening ceremony of Expo. This is the teamwork success. This is the days and the night that we spent over here. I think most of us in the technology operation worked for continuous 20 days without a day off, without a weekend. We worked for more than 12 hours because we wanted everything to be successful. Our main objective was to have successful event without disruption or impact to the event operation or any impact to the visitors and the countries participating. In a daily operation at Expo, we had rainy days, we had charming days that reflected the same when we go back at the back of the house and the team responsible. So in the Technology Operations Center, where we had over 40 people per shift and we had 7 zones across the site, so a total of 170 reporting to the Technology Operations Center director. Teams scattered across the site, supporting each other. We had difficult days, yeah. We had happy days, yes. There were some who wanted to run away, some who wanted to cry and in fact cried, some who wanted to shut down and leave, but we supported each other. I mean, we cared for the team. And it was also during the Delta Virgin, where at a point of time, we had an entire shift infected with COVID. So we had to reshuffle everything. So imagine you're running a 24/7 operation during the event and you had an entire shift, 40 people, half of them are infected, the rest are close contact. So imagine what we went through in order to reshuffle the shifts, how we're going to manage remotely, what are the positions that we need. We can manage to run things remotely from home, or how we're going to cover the rest of the shifts internally. So this was a glimpse of what we went through. We had funny incidents, midnight calls. We missed lunch some days, we missed breakfast. There was no standard weekend for us. So sometimes the weekend for me was Sunday, Monday. Sometimes it was Tuesday, Wednesday. So I never had the actual weekend. Most of us were living in the Expo. I was personally living there. So we weren't able to see even our families as much as we usually do. But with everything that was happening, we also remembered that we're humans, we celebrated. So this is part of the chocolates that I brought. We have something called Hag al-Layla, which is a celebration that we do mid of Sha'ban, which is 15 days before Ramadan. Usually kids go knock on the doors in the neighborhood and we would give them chocolates. So I brought chocolates in the Technology Operations Center and I said, guys, we need to celebrate as well. We're humans at the end of the day. We're running an amazing event, but we do have time to celebrate as well. And this was a wrap to one of a lifetime experience. I mean, the photo that you see in the middle, it's at 4 a.m. This is where we close the doors of Expo. The photo on the right that you see, these are the number of PCR tests that I did, and that was the wrap to a PCR test. I used to do, and most of us used to do PCRs every 2 or 3 days. Some of us, they had to do PCRs on a daily basis as well. It was a successful event. It was done with the teamwork, with the amazing team behind the scenes over there. And this was the view, my view after the vacation I took after Expo. And I think advice that I would give to everyone and to my younger self is we work to live, not live to work. We're humans at the end of the day, and you need to remember that. Keep an eye of your body, your mind, your soul, what it tells you. Keep an eye on those alerts, because once you burn out yourself, you reach to a level that would impact your mental health. No matter what exciting the project you work in, the entity you're working at, even if you got accepted to say at NASA, if you burn out yourself, you're not going to be able to give much to your work or even to yourself. And something that I always tell everyone, knowledge without sharing with others is useless, because you grow when people around you grow. So if you keep the information, if you keep the skill set, anything that you learn to yourself, thinking that that would make you unique and you don't share with the others around, that's a wrong perception that you have. And I always tell this to everyone. You can lead without a title. You can make a change, we can make a difference, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter how you think your job is small or big, you can make a difference, and you don't need a title to lead an amazing group or lead an amazing project. And us as women in such an industry, we tend to prove ourselves. We tend to prove that we need to prove that we are equal to what our male colleagues can do. But you know what? You don't need to prove yourself, because your work speaks for itself, and the sky is your limit. And never think of proving anything to everyone, as long as you're giving 100% and you're committed to what you're doing. And never wait for anyone to give you an opportunity. Opportunities, once you see it, grab it. Opportunities are taken, they're not given. So don't think that if I'm going to stay there, I'm going to wait for someone to give me an opportunity. No, once you see it, go grab it. A lot of people ask me this question I know it's difficult with the corporate politics, but stick to your ethics, stick to what you believe in, and you're going to reach where you're planning for yourself. And after 15 years of experience, I would say mental health is very important, and it's just not a global trend that people are talking about. It is something that you need to pay attention to, because it impacts you, it impacts your health, it impacts your family, it impacts your surrounding. And these are my golden tips, and based on my experience from the past couple of years. Thank you very much. Hopefully, inshallah, I'm going to be able to meet all of you next time.